Hello and welcome to Racers Now. It's that time of year, we're in the height of midsummer, where we start to take an early look at the Arc de Triomphe. Well, we do here at Racers Now. The conclusion of the King George at Ascot usually marks a point in my calendar where I take a first anti-post look at the Prix de lArc de Triomphe, Europe's premier middle distance showpiece at Longchamp that takes place on the first Sunday in October each and every year. Classic winners have been crowned in derbies and oaks in England, Ireland, and France. Heads are now starting to turn towards the autumn Group 1s, and trainers around Europe and beyond are looking and making plans around Arc Weekend as we speak. There was a time when the King George was more prestigious than the Arc, but that is clearly not the case now. They've obviously gone in very different directions as racers. The King George that's just concluded at Ascot and the Arc, I mean, you can just look at the average field size over the last 10 years, 14.8 in the Arc, just 7.5 in the King George. There was only 5 in the King George over the weekend just gone. Prize money last year in the Arc was £2.4 million to the winner. And prize money in the King George was £708,000 to the winner last year in 2024. That apparently with the King George is changing. It's going to be the first 2 million prize pot race in the UK as of 2026, we are told, the King George. Then you sprinkle in a bit of international interest that the Arc gets every year. The King George clearly doesn't. Some would say it's an obsession of the Japanese trainers, owners, fans. Racing generally in Japan are obsessed with winning that Arc. It's been elusive to them for many years. So far, they've come close, and the Japanese are just getting bigger and better as every year ticks by, really, on the international flat racing scene, whether that be in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, America Breeders' Cup, wherever that may be. They are big, big players, particularly at these middle distance races. But this isn't to take a dump on the King George. The fact that 3 of the last 8 winners of the Arc ran in the King George in the same season. Didn't all win it. Look at Wild Geese, finished 3rd, I think, in the King George, then went on to win the Arc in the same year. And Ascot, as I said earlier, are making an effort to increase that prize money to 2 million just from next year onwards. But they're just 2 very, very different races, even though they're similar in 12 furlong Group 1, pretty flat tracks, the pair of them. Similar races in some ways, but very, very different in others. First things first, when looking at the betting for the Arc, as we say each and every year, it's in early October, and we should assume that the ground is likely to be soft, certainly more likely than not to be soft. There are a few caveats when it comes to going descriptions in France and at Longchamp that appear on, the descriptions that appear on your favourite betting website or betting app in the UK often vary massively from what the clock tells us on the day when they're racing over in France. Yes, lost in translation, you could say, the French going description when converted to an English going description. I mean, Ace Impact was a fantastic winner of the Arc in 2023 on ground described to UK punters as good to soft, yet went a whopping 3.9 seconds under the so-called standard that day, under the good to soft standard by 3.9 seconds. So as you can see, the description that is given out by the French often differs to what we would consider to be good to soft, for example. This time a week ago, when looking at the Arc, it was 14-1 the field. You could back the shortest price horse or horses at 14-1. It was Mini Hawk or Kalpana at the time, 2 horses that are going to feature heavily in this video. But yeah, 14-1 the field, as wide open could be. And comments still apply now. Not going to name the horse quite yet, but at 8-1, the favourite after the conclusion of the King George, and with, we've got a 2 dual classic winners that could be Arc bound, both trained by Aidan O'Brien. Lambourne has won the English and Irish Derby. Mini Hawk has won the English Oaks and the Irish Oaks. So if you'd have told me at the start of the year that there would be an unbeaten horse this year that's won 2 classics, but yet available at 16-1 for the Arc, after the conclusion of the King George at the end of July, nearly August, a horse fitting that description, Aidan O'Brien, unbeaten this year, Derby winner, Irish Derby winner, available at 16-1. You might have looked at me like I've got 2 heads, but that's exactly what we've got with Lambourne, who's in there at the moment, 16-1. Mini Hawk's in there at 14-1. So we really do see very much wide open at this stage, even though we've got those horses with those profiles. It must be stated at this time that Lambourne and Mini Hawk, Lambourne definitely was the second choice Ballydoyle horse on the day in the Derby and went on to win. So that's maybe why he is still a little bit underestimated. He might be looking at going to the St. Ledger anyway, Lambourne, which makes sense. He certainly looks like a St. Ledger horse to me. And via what is quickly becoming Aidan O'Brien's favourite Group 2 in the calendar, the Great Voltigeur Stakes at York, which we never knew now was a destination for Irish Derby winners, but that's what looks like is going to happen in the last 2 years. 2024 Irish Derby winner Los Angeles ran in the Voltigeur under a penalty. 2025 Irish Derby winner and English Derby winner as well, for good measure. Lambourne is going to run in the Voltigeur under a penalty, going back down to Group 2 level. Aidan O'Brien has a new favourite race at York, and it looks like it's the Voltigeur. O'Brien running horses in the St. Ledger and the Arc in the same season. There's usually about a 3-week gap. Certainly wouldn't be unusual for the Ballydoyle King, Aidan O'Brien. It just hasn't yielded positive results for him. You can look at the likes of Leading Light, who won the Ledger. Camelot was second, probably should have won the Ledger. Capri, Kew Gardens, Continuous, all won, or in Camelot's case was second in the St. Ledger, all went on to Longchamp 3 weeks later. Most of them finished down the field. It doesn't seem to be a way to produce Arc winners by running him in the St. Ledger 3 weeks earlier. Who would have thought it? Back to the King George and the running of it. There was really only one runner in the King George that could have had an impact on the Arc market. Like I said, a week ago, before the King George, it was 14-1 the field for the Arc. And in the King George itself, there was really only one runner that could have had an impact on the Arc anti-post betting, and that's how it worked out. And the reasons for that is Calandagan, gelded. Rebels Romance, gelded. Can't run in the Arc as geldings. Calandagan, having won the King George, may well be the best middle distance horse in Europe. Can't run in the Arc. And he's French bred, French trained in those famous Aga Khan colours. Is now won back-to-back Group 1s. Look really pretty impressive in a funny old race at King George where they went virtually no pace early on. I was just reading today from At the Racers that the last 2 furlongs of the King George, where Kalpana was second, Calandagan was first, Calandagan ran those final 2 furlongs in the King George quicker than Lazat ran in winning the Jubilee Stakes Group 1 6-furlong race at Royal Ascot around 6 weeks ago. So you can, the Ballydoyle boys got that very wrong by the looks of it in the King George. Continuous didn't even lead, was almost eyeballing Jan Brugel. Jan Brugel was first off the bridle. They went a crawl early doors, which was completely the opposite of what they did at Epsom. And they admitted after Epsom that they was trying to go quick, trying to sap out the stamina of Calandagan. And it pretty much worked at Epsom. Great job. Certainly wasn't a great job in the King George, but maybe we'll leave that to another video to discuss that. So Calandagan, King George winner, can't run in the Arc, gelded. Rebels Romance, can't run in the Arc, gelded. Jan Brugel, he's been stuffed there, but he's never been talked as an Arc horse, really, wrongly or rightly. Continuous pacemaker. So that led us to Kalpana, who was 9-2 after the final decks for the King George, drifted all the way out to an SP of 15-2, was available at a double digits on the exchange before the off Kalpana. But forget that. She didn't know anything about the market, and she ran a career best Kalpana. Really, really good effort from her. Swooped past Jan Brugel, who was off the bridle earlier. Rebels Romance slightly hampered, but she finished a mile in front of them. She went past them like they were stood still. As we've seen quite a lot at Ascot this year, and some would argue over the years, Calandagan was the last horse to challenge at Ascot and won. And we've seen that a lot this year, particularly on the round course. The last horse to challenge, often winning. He was the 11-8 favourite or 11-10, whatever. He went off Calandagan. So there's no real surprises there. But Kalpana made a real eye-catching move there. She looked the winner for sure. 2 out before, like I say, the expectedly patiently ridden Calandagan swooped late, mowed her down, and ran the last 2 furlongs quicker than 6 furlong Group 1 winning pace. A perfect run for me for Kalpana with a view to the Arc. She was swiftly cut from that 16-1 into as short as 7 and 8-1 for the Longchamp showpiece thereafter. I thought it was a perfect prep. She'll appreciate more digging the ground come October. That's probably what she's going to get. I think she's a big player. She's been touted as an Arc horse really all year. I think Kalpana will be one of a few horses in the UK and Ireland whereby there's a big circle around the Arc in October and they work back from there. As I've said before on this channel, I think a lot of, because there is so many festivals or Group 1s in the UK, that a lot of the UK and Irish horses, I think these comments apply to Aidan O'Brien as well. He's the most powerful stable in flat racing in the world. I don't think many yards or many individual horses target the Arc outright. I think they get to the middle of the season, like we are now, and then consider they might have an Arc course, which is great, and then they might go and win it. Great. But I don't think there'll be many horses in the UK or Ireland that, like Kalpana, has been campaigned this year with one race in mind. Remember, she had a coming out party at Ascot on Champions Day in October 2024. That was over 1.5 miles. That was with Digging the Ground. She won very impressively there. And she was beaten twice already this season in Group 1s. One of them in the Tattersalls Gold Cup over in Ireland. That was over 10 furlongs, not far enough. Then she was also beaten in another 10 furlong race that I've now forgot. But yeah, Kalpana on a third start of the season, back up to that 1.5 miles. She looked good, and I think that's what we expected from her. Good performance, and she will be better, I think, as the season goes on, A, and B, with more cut in the ground. But also when looking at the Arc or any race from an anti-post perspective, this far out, and we are a long way out, it's the 27th of July today. The race doesn't take place until early October. You have to look at the race and what other races to be ran between now and then might have an impact on the Arc betting. And you can, judge your anti-post book around that. We've got the Juddmonte at York, definite producer of Arc contenders previously. But this year looks to be contested by out-and-out 10 furlong horses. You've got the likes of Delacroix, Ombudsman, See the Fire, etc. They're all out-and-out 10 furlong horses, will definitely not be going up to 12 furlongs, might be coming definitely more likely to be coming back down to 8 furlongs, those horses, if anything. A similar case may well be made for the Irish Champion Stakes in mid-September. There's no betting anti-post for that yet, but those kind of names, Delacroix from an O'Brien perspective, Ombudsman, they're going to be looking, again, 10 furlong horses, might well be looking at the Irish Champion Stakes. So, those two races, the Juddmonte Irish Champion, don't this year look like they're going to have much of an impact for me on the Arc betting. And you could say the Yorkshire Oaks might be the most telling race between now and the Arc, where Mini Hawk, Kalpana, and Estrange could all run. Now, you would have to think that Kalpana will not run in the Yorkshire Oaks, as it's only about 3 weeks away from her effort in the King George, and you're pretty likely height of August at York to have quick ground. She doesn't want quick ground. But Estrange and Mini Hawk, definite Arc contenders, definite contenders for the Yorkshire Oaks. Keep an eye on those two. Estrange has got to prove it. She's been impressive at a lower level this year. She needs to step up. Mini Hawks won the Oaks on both sides of the Irish Sea. Pretty lackluster, or workwoman-like, you could say, in her Irish Oaks win. She went off about 1-5 or something really short. Small field was expected to dominate, and she didn't win as far as some expected. I just think with Mini Hawk, and I thought this after Epsom, I thought she's very good and could be very good, could definitely have an impact in races against the boys later this season. She probably hasn't helped her case with that performance in the Irish Oak, but it was so dominant and so lined up for her that was she ever really going to knock anyone over and be that impressive? I just don't think she had the makeup of the race was in her favour to be that impressive. Anyway, after the Yorkshire Oaks, the other couple of races that might have an impact on the Arc betting and should do, given that they're Arc trials, are the Arc trials themselves at Longchamp over course and distance in the middle of September. There's two races there aimed at males, the Niel and the Foy. They haven't produced a winner of the Arc since Rail Link way back in 2006. They should do, being their over course and distance, being that's where the French horses often go. They haven't had a proper impact on the winner of the Arc for quite a long time, coming up nearly 20 years, 18 years-ish. The Vermeil is a different kettle of fish than the Niel and the Foy that are ran on the same day, because the Vermeil is a Group 1 in its own right for the ladies. So that can be taken with a different view to the other ones. It's a Group 1 and has given us recent ARC winners. Blue Stocking last year won the Vermeil, then went on to win the ARC. Trev in 2014 won the Vermeil and the ARC in the same year. But this year, I don't know what's going to run in the Vermeil. We'll find out in the coming days and weeks. But this year, going back to the boys' races, there could be a more significant impact on the market from the Foy this year. The Foy is the ARC trial for the older horses, normally the boys, 4-year-olds plus, whereas the Niel is for the 3-year-olds. Well, the Foy this year could have Ballydoyle's supposed chief hope, Los Angeles, penciled in. He's penciled in to run there. Disappointing in the Prince of Wales when we last saw him, but he's long been thought of an ARC horse. He ran in the ARC last year, let's not remember. I think he was finished around 5th. And since then, they've had he's been the top of the pile, if you like, for the Ballydoyle contender for the ARC, long-term Ballydoyle hope for the ARC. And then they'll wait until they see what happens in the classics. They have multiple runners in all the classics as usual, and Minnie Hawk looks like she's the chief ARC hope out of the classic generation for the Ballydoyle boys. What about the home team? The French have won 3 of the last 6. And they've won 11 this century. So they certainly shouldn't be dismissed, as is a habit of myself and SD on this channel of dismissing the French runners, often for good reason. But that record just shows that they've been in pretty good winning form of the ARC. They went through a bit of a barren period where the UK and Irish were just mopping up, not just the ARC, but the supporting races. It has started turning in recent years, let's be fair to the French. They've got Saucy, went off favourite last year and finished 4th. He's had a somewhat mixed time of it earlier this season. He won a couple of Group 1s of the early Group 1s, the Gannet and the Dispahan, before he came over for the Eclipse. They talked him up. It was a target of his, mid-season target at Sandown. He was quick ground, but finished last. So that wasn't great. Saucy is going to have a mid-season rest by the looks of it and a trial on the cards. Typical Andre Farb ARC prep, and he's won it God knows how many times. 3-year-olds also have a good record in the ARC, particularly the 3-year-old fillies. That the chief one at the moment from the French side of things is this Gisora. She's the winner of the Diane, which is always a good sign for an ARC contender. That's over 10 furlongs, Group 1 for fillies. They call it the French Oaks, but can it be called an Oaks if it's only over 10 furlongs? Not for me. She's likely to go for the Vermeil. So, yeah, that would be interesting. She'd definitely be an interesting runner there. The Diane this year, to me, didn't look a great renewal, and she's yet to try over 1.5 miles, this Gisora, but should on breeding stay. Love soft ground. That Diane, I think Bedtime Story was the most recognisable British or Irish horse in there. She's no great shakes. I think she finished 2nd or 3rd. So Gisora has got some to prove on form. She could meet Aventure in the Vermeil, who's Aventure in her own right, pretty consistent, but yet to win at the top level, and couldn't get anywhere near Calandagan in a 5-runner Grand Prix de Saint Cloud in June. That was Calandagan's first Group 1 win, the top level, and Aventure talked up as this good filly. Couldn't get anywhere near him on that day. 4th and final French hope to mention at this stage is this Dariz, who didn't run at all as a juvenile. He's unbeaten in 4 starts, including a Group 2 last time, over Bay City Roller over in France, who pretty much Bay City Roller ran a stinker as a 3-year-old in the York Stakes on his next start. So form not really backed up there from a British level. Clearly, very exciting prospect, this Dariz. Comes in the Aga Khan colours and looks sure to relish the ARC trip. He's the shortest price of any of the French-trained horses at the moment and could even run in the Juddmonte International in August at York. He's a definite potential market mover, but he's unexposed. He's got that profile, but he does need to go and prove it. It'd be nice if he turned up at York. That would be interesting. We've mentioned Minnie Hawk, but just touching back on her because she is right near the top of the market. She's in there at 2nd favourite at the moment. Kalpana's your 8-1 favourite. We're going to be coming on to her. Minnie Hawk's 14-1. Dariz, as mentioned, 16-1. You've got Whirl in there at 16-1. I can't see him running Whirl and Minnie Hawk in the same race. They're both the fillies. Lambourne 16-1 may well be ledger bound. Ombudsman 16-1 has got no Opa staying. Saucy, we've mentioned 16-1. Gisora, potential market mover, 20-1. Aventure, not quite up to this level, 20-1. And bigger prices, the rest. So yeah, we've talked about Minnie Hawk. She was workwoman-like, if you like, when long odds on in the Irish Oaks. I think she's very good. Could be better when in deeper waters and tested against better opposition, possibly even the boys, older horses. But in comparison to Kalpana, Mini Hawk is much less proven on those metrics. He's yet to face the boys. He's yet to face the older horses. Kalpana we saw against the boys and the older horses in the King George. Really, really impressive, despite only finishing second. So Mini Hawk clearly has high potential. I think she could fulfill that potential in time. But would she even be the O'Brien first string if going to the Arc? Even if Los Angeles runs in the Arc as planned, what will Ryan ride? Would it be Los Angeles? Would it be Mini Hawk? They've got a whole host of others who could run, but look unlikely at this stage. Anything from Young, Brugo, Whirl, Lambourne, as mentioned. The market at the moment as the filly is shorter price than Los Angeles of the two. So I think that could be very different on the day, particularly if Ryan is on Los Angeles. Los Angeles is 20-1. Mini Hawk at the moment is 14. I think that could look pretty different on the date, dependent on jockey bookings. Would it be the likes of Christophe Soumillon, who they've used over there, or Wayne Lorden, who's won a classic this year at Epsom? Would be interesting. This time out from the race, from an anti-post race, you can quickly start marking them off, as I've just done there, listing them. I mean, at current prices, and a reminder, it's effectively 8-1 the field, which is pretty open. Ombudsman 16-1. Just isn't staying. See the Fire, same. Delacroix's in there at 20-1, won't be staying. Camille Pizarro 33-1, won't be staying. Although he did win the French Derby, even though it was 10 furlongs, not a proper Derby. Jan Bruygel 33-1, won't be quick enough for him. Desert Flower is in there at 50-1. That made me laugh when I saw that. So it brings us back round to who is the best bet at the moment. It's got to be Kalpana. I've been tiptoeing around her in this video, but it's got to be her. She's got to be the best bet at this stage. She was clipped in. She actually, one bookmaker pushed her out after the King George, where she finished second. She went out from 12-1 to 14-1 to match others who were top price at 14-1 in the market. Quickly trimmed into 10. She settled around 8-1, 24 hours after the race. She settled around 8-1. I still think that's a bet. I mean, Juddmonte aren't bad at winning the Arc with a filly in recent years, are they? Let's have it right. They've Enables won it twice, finished second once, ran in it 4 times in a row. Blue Stocking, they won it last year with her. And I do really believe that Kalpana has had the Arc on her mind all year since that day in the middle of October last year. Now, I know that's easy to say. It's Europe's richest race. It's the Arc. I know that's easy to say, been targeted at this. But I truly believe Kalpana in Britain and Ireland is the best horse that has been deliberately targeted at this race. And she's got having the perfect season so far. She's steadily improving. She's proven at the trip, 1.5 miles. She's proven with juice in the ground. She's proven against the boys, although she didn't win the race. She beat a couple of good yardsticks in the King George, and she's 8-1. I mean, what more could you want? She will be an official selection from me. There's all sorts of water to pass under the bridge. I need to put 1 point on there. There's all sorts of water to pass under the bridge between now and the Arc in early October. We might even have our French correspondent Andy Humphrey come on for a chat in between now and then. SD will say that he hates the Arc. He doesn't do French form, but he'll try and put up the winner in the days before after declarations, which is a fair approach. Don't get me wrong. He's had some success doing that in recent years. But as usual, we'll be back on Races Now. We've got Goodwood coming next week. All sorts of videos planned there. SD's Dailies doing pretty well recently, and he had a whole host of winners over the weekend. But I'm sure he'll tell you about that when we next see him on Monday night. So thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments who your fancy is for the Arc at this stage. It might not be very original, but I think Kalpana at 8-1. She's got a lot in her favour, and I can see her going off a lot shorter than that on the day. That's my selection. Thanks for watching.